So Mrs. K is really embracing these wooden groins, and she's decided she wants this old bird fixed onto the top. So that's what I'm going to do. So we're in our second lockdown here in our county of Blaenau Gwent, and it means that we can't travel in and out of the county and we can't mix with any other households. But we're still going to carry on with the allotment. Fortunately, it's not very far from where I live and it enables me to keep really busy even when the restrictions are in place. So hopefully it won't last too long, and hopefully the disease or virus will diminish quickly. Fingers crossed. The other thing that I've got to do today is get these sweet peas out, and I'm going to harvest all these pods with the seeds in, take those home and then spend some time de-seeding them. So we'll get the seeds off and then see if we can get those plants out of the ground. So I've just opened one of these pods to show you, and the seed is really well formed, and I'll be drying that off and keeping it for next year. And if you find some sweet peas that you really like, and these are a good mix and nice and fragranced, then you really can perpetuate them from one year to the next without any problem at all. So we'll get on and pick these pods and add them to the seeds that I've already picked from other plants this year. Well, I've picked plenty and there are plenty more, but there's a limit to how many of these seeds you actually want. And you can tell when they're really ready because they rattle. And as I go through, I was shaking the plant to see which ones were absolutely ready to be harvested. So one or two of these are just splitting down the seam of the pod as well. So they'll be perfect. And this is a real mix of varieties. I'm not too precious about a specific variety. I'm not growing them for show. They really are just for cutting and bringing into the house and enjoying in the flower bed. So they'll be absolutely fantastic, and I'll mix them up and we'll be growing those next year. And saving seed right now I think is pretty important. It was difficult to get seed at the beginning of the lockdown in March in this year, 2020. And who knows, 2021 might be the same or even more difficult. We don't know the impact at the moment of the people who keep and packet all these seeds, what the virus has done. So hopefully it won't have had too much impact on them and their livelihoods will remain and be consistent. And next year, hopefully we'll all get plenty of seed. But in case we don't, keeping your own is a really good backstop. Well, they really are extremely easy to pull out the ground, and we've got a few weeds left, but otherwise doing very well, especially with these lavender, which I planted from seed just a year ago now, and they're really nice and low growing at the moment, and that's the way I want to try and keep them. Lavender, once they get a bit straggly, can get a bit out of hand, so keeping them nice and bushy like this is a really easy way of keeping them under control, and the fragrance is wonderful from those leaves. So had a last minute harvest of the sweet pea flowers. I'll take those home and they'll look nice indoors. Taking the other bush out, or the other group of sweet peas, it was good to see how well this rosemary was doing, and it had been a bit tangled up inside that load of sweet peas, but it's really nice and green and quite bushy, so pleased to see that. And we've also got quite a lot of garlic chives growing in here, which is nice, and they were grown from seed, and I just want them to bush out, so I'm really not cropping them in any way. And we've got a bit of a wild geranium here. We get this blue variety, which is quite pleasant, but it is quite prolific in this area. And of course the parsley, which is still very usable, nice and green, and we'll look forward to eating some of that. And over here we've got the oregano, which is flowering now, but still very bushy and nice to crop from. So a nice little group of herbs there that mainly have been revealed from taking the sweet peas out. Well, the squash are nearing the time to harvest them. I noticed this morning how much insect life there is in here, sort of holding on to the last few flowers. In here we had 4 or 5 bees just a minute ago. There's one in there now, and butterflies still hunting around looking for flowers too. But it's a game of decisions now, what the best time is to harvest these squash. And there's plenty of them in here, and I'm thinking just a little bit longer, although the forecast is for a lot of rain and much lower temperatures over the next few days. So I'm just going to see how we go day by day and decide when to pull them out. But there's still quite a few that are forming and growing in here, which is really interesting, and who knows, I might get a small pumpkin or two out of those. It's a lot easier to see things now that the leaves are beginning to die back, and there really is quite a few mature squash and pumpkin in here, so it'll be interesting when the leaves get to come out. Well, it's time to get those last tomatoes. These Dixies are looking really good, and the plant's just about had it now. So we're going to get the undamaged ones off, because there are, you can see on this one where the blight has just taken over the fruit, and we'll discard that one carefully, but the others still very usable. And we're going to make some pasta sauce fairly rapidly out of them, so we don't get that effect on any of the others. And we've got some red ones to pick as well. These are exactly the same, in danger of being spoilt by any virus that's in the stems of the plant. And these are really quite nice fruits, and so far so good. Not much damage to them at all, if any. We'll pick even the green ones and see if we can ripen them up. We've managed to ripen up quite a few successfully indoors, and as I say, putting a banana skin with them seems to help out. The only thing it does do is attract those little fruit flies, which are a bit of a pain. A bit dirty, that one, but nothing wrong with that. And a couple more up here. And we've got one that's fallen there, but seems okay. So that's him done. I think we're going to need another container. Let's use a tray for now. These are very oddly shaped because that is the nature of these fruits. They really aren't your archetypal great shaped tomato. That one's a bit damaged, that you see in the supermarket, because they're varieties that are old and weren't grown for their looks, but definitely grown for their flavour. So we've got two there that have got some damage, and we'll see if that's retrievable. I don't think they are. No, they're dripping, so they're going to go out, unfortunately. But we've had a few tomatoes, and we'll be making some pasta sauce from these. Now this potash from the bonfire the other night is going in the shed. It's settled now and there's not too much dust, and we're expecting quite a lot of rain, so I want to keep it dry. So into the shed with that one, and then we're going to do some removal of the courgette plants. So the courgettes are pretty much over now, and I think we need to harvest what's left and take out the plants and get them on the compost heap. So we've got one bizarrely large one here, which is taking quite a time to get off the stem. There we go. And we've got one small one. Nothing in there. Oh, there is one. Oh, there's two. So we will get a few courgettes into our pasta sauce. There we go. Not a bad little picking in the last throes of these plants. Well, I've had a bit of a change of heart. After seeing the last few fruits on these, I've noticed one or two small ones. So I think I'm just going to hang in there and see if they develop. If nothing else, we can have a few small courgettes to eat on one of the days in the next few weeks. So, stay of execution for the courgettes for now. Well, we've already got loads of rhubarb in the freezer, but I'm going to take some more of this rhubarb. I'll leave a few of the leaves just to get the plant as beefed up in the roots as I can possibly get it. But I think this is probably the last harvest. I'm actually quite surprised how much harvest I've had off of these plants. But the stems definitely get a little bit stringy the longer you leave them. So I'm going to take as fresh a bunch of the stems as I can and get them home, get them into the freezer. So they're reasonably firm, just a little bit more pliable than the earlier ones. I just need to make sure that I don't pick any that are really quite limp, because they don't make good eating. So I'm going to search through and get the firm stems. So there we are, that's a reasonably good crop for the end of the year, and I'm leaving these plants with a good few stalks on them. That one's broken off, but generally got a good few stalks, and that'll help to continue to feed the roots and make that plant a strong and healthy plant for next year. Got ourselves quite an unusual caterpillar by the looks of it. He's heading for the hedge. So I've decided I'm going to put my wormeries up here and get these pots down on the edge there and get the wormeries set up and give them another bash for the winter. They will need covering up because of the cold weather, but I think it'll make good use of this flat and clear space. So I get these moved and get the wormeries in their final resting place for the winter season. So there we are in place, and I'll get to filling those up and locating the worms in due course. When I get to move the compost from the compost bins, there'll be shed loads of worms. So if I can get these so that there's got a reasonable amount of decomposable matter inside, then I can put the worms on the top and they'll work their way through over the winter months. I need to put something on top, I think, just to keep the lids from blowing off in the wind. I'll solve that quickly. There we go. I noticed this morning that there's a mole in here making use of this ground, which is fine. I guess as it gets a bit wetter, he'll change his direction. But for now, he's welcome. I do hope you enjoyed the video today. If you did, click the subscribe button, click the like button, and if you want updates from me each time I upload a video, click the bell and select all. I do hope you have a great day. Diolch yn fawr.